The rain wouldn't stop that evening. Lagos streets shimmered with headlights and puddles as commuters hurried home, umbrellas clashing under the gray sky. But in the chaos, one figure didn't move, an old, dark-skinned woman in a tattered brown wrapper, sitting quietly by the side of the road near a bakery gate. Her hair, streaked with gray, clung to her face, and her wrinkled hands trembled as she tried to cover herself with a torn nylon bag. People walked past without a glance. Some muttered. Others stepped around her as if she were invisible. But then a young woman stopped. She was about 24, slim and dark-skinned, wearing a faded office shirt soaked from the rain. Her name was Amara, an intern who had just lost her job that same afternoon. Her own life was already falling apart, yet something about the old woman made her pause. Amara crouched down and said softly, "Mama, please come with me." The old woman looked up slowly, her voice weak but dignified. "No, my child. I'll be fine." Amara didn't believe her. She rushed into the bakery, bought bread and tea with her last 1,500 Nigerian nairas, and came back. She sat beside the woman, holding the steaming cup to her lips. For a moment, the city noise faded. Only the rain and their quiet breaths remained. The woman whispered, "You shouldn't have stopped for me. No one ever does." Amara smiled sadly. "Maybe that's why I had to." Unseen by them, a sleek black car slowed down nearby. The tinted window rolled down just slightly, and someone inside watched the scene carefully. The next morning, the sound of Lagos traffic filled Amara's tiny one-room apartment. The walls were cracked, her mattress thin, and the power had gone out again. She sat on the edge of her bed, clutching her phone, scrolling through job applications she couldn't afford to submit. No data, no hope. Her clothes from the night before still hung on the door, half dry from the rain. She thought about the old woman, her tired eyes, her soft voice. Something about her had felt different. Amara sighed and opened her old purse. Only 800 Nigerian nairas left. She was about to step out to find breakfast when her phone suddenly buzzed. "Good morning, Miss Amara Nwosu. You're invited for an interview today at 11 a.m. Address, Hallmark Towers, Victoria Island." She froze. Hallmark Towers? That was one of the biggest law firms in Lagos, a place she'd dreamed of working but never even applied to. Her heart raced. "There must be a mistake," she whispered, dialing the number that sent the message. A calm voice on the other end replied, "No mistake, ma'am. You've been shortlisted for a personal interview. Please be on time." The line went dead. Amara stood there, trembling. She had nothing decent to wear, no transport money to get to Victoria Island, and no idea how anyone could have gotten her details. But something inside her, that same voice that made her stop for the old woman, whispered again, "Go." She borrowed 500 Nigerian nairas from her neighbor for transport, ironed her best blouse, and stepped out into the blazing Lagos sun. By 10:45 a.m., she stood in front of Hallmark Towers, a tall glass building that seemed to touch the clouds. Men in suits walked past her, expensive perfumes filling the air. She could see her reflection in the glass, small, nervous, out of place. The receptionist looked up as she entered. "Good morning. Name, please?" "Amara Nwosu," she said softly. The woman checked a list and paused. Her expression changed immediately. "Oh, Miss Amara, you're expected. Please, take the private elevator to the 12th floor. Someone will meet you there." Amara blinked, confused. "Private elevator?" "Yes. The judge requested you personally." "Judge," Amara repeated. The receptionist smiled faintly, but said nothing more. As the elevator doors closed, her heartbeat thundered. She had no idea that the woman she helped last night, the one she thought was homeless, was waiting for her upstairs. And what waited for Amara on that 12th floor wasn't just a job interview. It was fate. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing a quiet hallway covered in white marble and gold trimmings. The air smelled faintly of vanilla and wealth, the kind of air you could almost taste. Amara stepped out slowly, clutching her bag with both hands, her heart pounding so loud it almost echoed. A young, dark-skinned assistant in a sleek gray suit approached her immediately. Miss Amara Nwosu? He asked politely. Yes, she whispered. Please follow me. Her worn shoes clicked softly against the floor as he led her past rows of glass offices, where lawyers typed quickly and phones rang nonstop. She could feel eyes on her, confused glances, raised brows, as if her presence didn't belong there. At the end of the corridor, the assistant stopped beside a tall, mahogany door. He smiled. She's expecting you. Amara's fingers trembled as she reached for the handle. Inside, the office looked like something out of a magazine. Wide, sunlit windows overlooking the city, art on the walls, and a giant bookshelf filled with legal documents and framed photos. But what caught her attention wasn't the luxury. It was the woman sitting behind the desk. She was dressed in an elegant black gown, her silver hair neatly wrapped in a scarf, her dark brown skin glowing softly against the light streaming through the blinds. Her posture was regal, her eyes calm, but unmistakably powerful. For a moment, Amara just stared. The woman looked up from her papers and smiled gently. Good morning, Amara. That voice, soft, warm, familiar. Amara's breath caught in her throat. It's you? The woman stood, her gold bracelet glinting as she stepped around the desk. Yes, my dear. It's me, the same old woman you found by the roadside last night. Amara's knees almost gave out. She clutched her chest, trying to find words. But you said you had nowhere to go. You said, I did, the woman said calmly, her smile fading into something deeper, something knowing. I want to see how far kindness can go when no one's watching. Amara felt her throat tighten. You were testing me? The woman shook her head. Not a test, a chance. You showed me something this world has forgotten. Compassion without condition. You didn't walk away. The billionaire judge, Justice Adan Okafor, one of Nigeria's most respected and wealthiest legal minds, placed a gentle hand on Amara's shoulder. I've met presidents, governors, and CEOs, but very few people who still have a pure heart. Tears welled in Amara's eyes. I don't understand. Why me? Because, the judge said softly, I once was you, hungry, rejected, laughed at, until one woman gave me a chance. Justice Okafor walked to her desk, picked up a small brown envelope, and handed it to Amara. Inside were documents, an official letter with a hallmark legal crest stamped in gold. Amara read aloud, her voice shaking. Appointment letter, assistant legal analyst, immediate employment. She looked up, speechless. The judge smiled. It's not charity, Amara. It's opportunity, one you've earned through kindness. Amara fell to her knees, tears streaming freely now. Thank you, Ma. Thank you. Justice Okafor knelt slightly too, lifting her chin gently. Never kneel to those who believe in you. Stand tall, my child. The world will try to break you, but grace will always lift you back up. The room fell silent again, save for the hum of the city outside. Through her tears, Amara saw the judge walk back to her desk, take off her gold wristwatch, and hand it to her. Keep this. It's a reminder that time rewards the kind-hearted, even when life seems unfair. Amara took it with trembling hands. That day, she didn't just get a job. She gained something far greater, a destiny intertwined with a woman who saw her not as a beggar, but as a believer. And as she left the office, walking back to the same halls that once looked down on her, the whispers behind her turned from mockery to awe. The next morning, the grand hall of Hallmark Legal Headquarters buzzed with chatter. Rows of dark-suited executives and lawyers filled the room for the company's annual staff review, an event streamed live for investors and the public. Reporters waited near the stage, cameras flashing as a tall banner behind the podium read, Integrity, the foundation of justice. At the center of it all sat Justice Adan Okafor, the billionaire judge, dignified in a flowing cream bata embroidered with gold. Her dark skin glowed under the stage lights, her silver scarf neatly tied, and her presence commanded the entire hall, without a single word. Standing beside her was Amara, now transformed, gone with the worn sandals and torn blouse. She now wore a crisp white blouse tucked into a navy blue skirt, her dark brown skin radiant under the soft lights. Her hair, once messy, was neatly braided, and she carried herself with quiet grace. But behind her calm eyes, a storm of emotion brewed, disbelief, gratitude, and quiet strength. At the far side of the hall, the same employees who had laughed at her 2 nights ago whispered among themselves. Some looked ashamed. Others refused to meet her eyes. The receptionist who once mocked her dirty clothes now stared at the floor, twisting her fingers nervously. Just as Dan adjusted the microphone, the room fell silent. "Before we begin today's review," she said, her voice rich and firm, "I would like to introduce someone special." The audience straightened, expecting a foreign guest or high-profile partner. The judge turned toward Amara. "This young woman you see before you," she said, "is a reminder that greatness often comes wrapped in humility." Amara's heart pounded. She wanted to disappear, yet somehow she stood taller. The judge continued. 2 nights ago, I was not sitting behind a desk or surrounded by guards. I was on the streets, lost, tired, and invisible. Many walked past me. Some laughed, but one person stopped. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some exchanged nervous glances. The HR head blinked rapidly, realizing what was coming. "She gave me her last meal," Justice Adan said, her gaze sweeping across the audience. "Without knowing who I was, that woman is now standing here before you." Every head turned to Amara. The room froze. Gasps broke out. Someone in the back whispered, "That can't be her." But it was. The same homeless girl now stood in the place of honor beside the billionaire judge. Adan gestured to her. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet Amara Nwosu, our newest legal analyst, and the reason I was reminded that compassion still exists in this world." Applause erupted, hesitant at first, then growing like a wave. Some stood, others wiped their eyes. The billionaire judge smiled proudly as she motioned Amara forward. Amara's hand shook as she stepped up to the podium. She looked out at the sea of faces, the same faces that had turned away from her in disgust. Her voice trembled, but her words were steady. I don't have much to say," she began. "Only this. Never let your circumstances make you forget your humanity. Yesterday, I was begging for food. Today, I'm standing here. Not because I'm special, but because someone saw value where others saw shame." A few in the audience nodded, moved. "Don't judge people by what they wear," she continued, "because beneath the dust and pain, there might be someone with dreams bigger than yours." The judge smiled, eyes shining with pride. "Well said, my dear." But then, from the back, a voice interrupted. "Ma'am," said one of the senior lawyers nervously, "if she's a new analyst, what happens to the candidate who was supposed to get that position?" Justice Adan turned to him, her expression calm but sharp. "That candidate failed the first test of leadership, kindness. Here, we do not reward pride. We reward integrity." Silence fell again, deep, almost reverent. Even the cameras seemed to capture the weight of the moment. The judge turned back to Amara. "From today, you will not just work here. You'll shadow me directly in my mentorship program. The same kindness you gave me, I will multiply back into your life." Tears filled Amara's eyes as she whispered, "Thank you, Ma." "No, Amara," the judge said softly. "Thank you for reminding this building full of power that power means nothing without compassion." The audience stood again, this time fully. The entire hall erupted into applause, not out of duty, but out of genuine admiration. As the music swelled and cameras flashed, the once homeless girl stood proudly beside the billionaire judge. 2 generations, 2 women, 1 story, proof that humility can lift a soul higher than any fortune ever could. And somewhere, at the very back of the room, the same receptionist who once laughed at Amara now whispered under her breath, tears in her eyes, "God, forgive me." The celebration had ended, but the echoes of applause still hung in the air like distant thunder. As the crowd dispersed in the grand hall, Amara remained behind, standing quietly near the glass window that overlooked the city. Below, Lagos stretched out in all its chaos and beauty. Cars honking, people hustling, the sun dipping low over skyscrapers that glowed like fire. Behind her, the billionaire judge, Justice Adan, stood with gentle grace, watching her silently. "You did well today," she said softly. "You spoke truth from a place of pain. That's something most people in power have forgotten how to do." Amara turned, her brown eyes still wet with emotion. "Nah, I still don't understand why you chose me." Dan smiled faintly. "Because when everyone else looked away, you didn't. You gave without expecting anything in return. That's the kind of person who deserves a chance to lead." For a moment, silence stretched between them, not awkward, but full of meaning. Then the heavy doors behind them creaked open, and several familiar faces stepped in. The receptionist, the HR head, the security guard who once pushed Amara out of the building. They all looked uneasy. The judge glanced at them briefly. "Come," she said. "It's time we finish the story properly." The receptionist was the first to speak, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry. I didn't know who she was. You thought she wasn't worth your respect." Dan finished gently but firmly. "And that is exactly the problem with the world today." The woman lowered her gaze. "Yes, Ma." Amara shifted uncomfortably. She didn't want revenge. She only wanted peace. She looked at them and spoke softly. "It's okay. I forgive you. I know what it feels like to be desperate and afraid. Maybe if I were in your shoes, I might have done the same." Her words hung in the air, disarming, humble, and pure. The HR manager, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, swallowed hard. "You're forgiving us?" Just like that. Amara nodded slowly. "Yes, because when you hold on to anger, it poisons your own peace. I've had enough pain in my life. I won't let bitterness grow where healing can live." Justice Dan smiled approvingly. "That is what makes her different. True leadership begins with forgiveness." The security guard stepped forward, hat in hand, tears glistening on his dark skin. "Miss Amara," he said, his voice breaking, "I've worked here for 15 years. I've seen people come and go. But today, I saw something I've never seen before. You made even the powerful remember they have hearts. Please forgive me, too." Amara nodded and extended her hand. The guard hesitated, then shook it. And in that simple gesture, something sacred passed between them. The billionaire judge turned toward the group. "Listen well," she said. "Every person in this room will make mistakes. But what separates the wicked from the wise is whether they learn from them. What you did to her could have destroyed a life. Instead, it gave her strength. Let that be a lesson you carry forever." The staff bowed their heads, some crying softly. Dan continued, her voice firm yet compassionate. "From this day forward, my company will not just be about money or power. It will be about people, about second chances. And that begins with each of you." Then she turned to Amara. "You, my dear, will lead the new department, the Foundation of Grace. Your first task will be to find and help others who have been overlooked just like you once were." Amara froze, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," the judge replied with a smile. "Just promise me you'll use your heart the same way you used it that night, when you thought no one was watching." Tears filled Amara's eyes again. "I promise, Ma." The judge stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Then your story begins today, not as the girl who begged on the street, but as the woman who will change the world." As they walked out a hall together, the late afternoon light poured through the tall windows, painting their silhouettes in gold. Outside, the workers lined up quietly, watching them go. The same people who had once mocked her now smiling with admiration and respect. In that moment, Lagos seemed to slow down. The city that had once crushed her spirit now bowed to her courage. And somewhere deep inside, Amara knew this was just the beginning. She whispered under her breath, "Mama, I made it." Justice Dan looked at her and smiled knowingly. "Yes, my daughter, you did." Weeks passed, and life began to move differently for Amara. The mansion that once felt intimidating now felt warm, alive. Not because of its gold chandeliers or marble floors, but because of laughter. The same laughter that had been missing from her life since her mother's death. Each morning, Amara woke up early, dressed simply, and went to work with quiet determination. No chauffeur, no designer bags, no trace of pride, just purpose. Justice Adan often watched her from the balcony, a soft smile playing on her lips. She reminds me, she thought, of the girl I once was, hungry for change, yet full of heart. One afternoon, as the sun fell behind the Lagos skyline, Amara walked through the quiet garden at the back of the judge's estate. The scent of hibiscus filled the air, and the sound of birds blended with the faint hum of the city beyond the gates. There, under the old mango tree, she found the judge sitting alone, her robe neatly folded beside her. Without speaking, Amara sat beside her. For a long time, they just watched the evening fade into orange light. Then Adan broke the silence. "You know, Amara," she said softly, "life has a strange way of testing us. It strips away everything we think matters, money, power, reputation, until all that's left is who we truly are." Amara nodded, eyes glistening. "I used to think being poor was my punishment. Now I see it was my preparation." The judge smiled deeply. "And that's why you were chosen. Because grace doesn't find the proud. It finds the humble." They sat quietly for a while, and then Amara looked up. "Ma, do you ever regret helping people who once wronged you?" Adan's eyes softened. "Never. Because forgiveness doesn't make them right. It just makes you free." Amara took a deep breath. "I've forgiven them too," she said. "All of them. Even the ones who laughed when I had nothing." "That's how you win," Adan said, her voice low but steady. "Not by revenge, but by rising above." The sound of wind rustled the leaves above them. A soft breeze passed through, carrying the scent of rain. Adan stood slowly, her joints aching slightly but her spirit firm. "Come," she said. "There's something I want to show you." They walked toward the front of the house. There, parked in the driveway, stood a modest white car, clean, new, simple. On its hood lay a single envelope with Amara's name written in elegant handwriting. "What's this?" she asked in surprise. Adan smiled. "Your first gift as director of the foundation. You'll need it for your journeys. You have people to help, stories to rewrite, and lives to change." Amara covered her mouth, tears welling up. "Ma, this is too much." "It's not enough," Adan interrupted gently. "You've given me something money could never buy. Faith in humanity." Amara hugged her tightly. "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." Adan whispered, "You don't owe me thanks. Just promise me one thing, that wherever you go, you'll carry grace with you." Amara nodded. "Always." That night, she drove through the busy streets of Lagos for the first time. Her window rolled down, wind brushing her face. The streetlights flickered on, illuminating the lives of countless others just like she once was. Struggling, unseen, but not forgotten. She stopped near a small roadside shop where a homeless woman sat by a fire, holding a baby. Amara stepped out, handed her an envelope, and said softly, "You don't know me, but I know how it feels to start from nothing. Don't give up. Better days come." The woman looked up, confused but grateful, whispering, "Thank you, my daughter." Amara smiled, eyes wet. "No, Ma. Thank grace." She turned, got back into the car, and drove off into the glowing Lagos night. Her reflection in the mirror calm, strong, and full of peace. The voice of Justice Adan echoed softly in her mind. "Life will test you, Amara, but as long as you choose kindness over pride, you'll never lose."